3, 2, 1. We are live.
This is 2OF Entertainment.
Joe, do you want to know why some businesses succeed and some businesses fail? Why some businesses grow and some businesses don't? That's what this show is all about. Business, business, business. Oh, here we are.
Yes, welcome back to the Lost Dollar Business Club, everybody. Good to see the crew, although we're missing our good friend David.
Well, is he really our good friend, though? Let's not get carried away. That's a strong term. We're going to start saying he's our good friend.
Though, Stephen. He's an
acquaintance. Let's not get carried away. So,
good to see everybody here. And good to
David
see you back in the show, Nick.
Yeah. Nick's got his gerbils working.
Power back.
He's got his gerbils. John's back from Nazi gold money.
Yeah. So, more true than we realize.
Yes, very true.
But
well, there's the reason why we got so much power now is because the elections are happening in a couple of months' time. So they've got to keep the power on because they want to keep. They want to stay in power. Come on, guys. There's always thinking.
It's true.
Well, power is a strategic move in South Africa.
Indeed, exactly.
So before we start the show, we have a couple things. Lost and Found will come after we have a guest today, which Michael will tell us about. We're going to do Lost and Found. We got tons of stuff. This will be fun.
All right.
For people that like Lost and Found. And also next week, we have a fan favorite coming back, which means only half the crew will be here next week because Michael does his show later in the day, a little late because he's older. And, they can only get him out of the nursing home at a certain hour.
Right.
So, and our guest next week will be Michael Collins.
Yes, the author about multinational corporations and how they've injured or destroyed the American economy, depending on who you ask.
That's right.
He'll be talking about the CEO pledge next week.
And the really cool thing is us at the Illuminati with the lizard people, we just keep funneling him stuff and he keeps publishing it. We love this guy. So the propaganda he puts out is great for the little people. And we just want to know we're going to crush you all.
Makes us feel better. Yeah.
There you go. All right. So let's run a commercial to pay the bills. And then when we're done, who are we going to have on our show today?
We've got Scott Arey, CEO of Community.
I think it's Avery, by the way.
Oh, is it Arey? Okay.
It could be Avery, yeah. I mean, I'm sure he'll correct us. But
Scott will correct us when he comes on after the commercial.
There you go. But what's he do?
He is the CEO of Community Musician, and actually he was the CFO of a very successful exit, Gearbox Software, which you might know is the video game company out of Dallas, Texas. They're an award-winning gaming company.
Oh, it's a beauty. So we got someone that can talk gaming and his new company.
That's right.
All right. Well, let's pay the bills, and then we'll come right back.
Get the freedom and the flexibility of remote work in the lucrative tech industry. Bend your life around the world. Bandicoot is the premier course and community for thriving in a remote tech career. Join the revolution today. Bandicoot.com, official partner of the Lost Dollar Business Club.
And we are here. All right. Are you guys ready for our guest?
Oh, we're ready.
Nice? No, probably not. John already thinks it's a scam, I'm sure, because he thinks everything's a scam. And no, John, just so you know, they're not doing any roll-ups in China.
Okay.
No roll-ups in China yet?
If Scott mentions China, it's all over. That's it.
I looked at the business model and, oh, boy.
Uh-oh. Okay. Well, this will be fun. I can't wait to get this. This will be a great interview. Scott, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Great to have you, Scott. Now, the real question is it Arey or Arey?
My family always pronounced it Arey, but you can call me anything except animal names.
Scott Arey. We've got that covered. No animal names here on the Lost Dollar Business Club.
Great.
All right. So we're getting a little reverb, so we apologize to the fans, and we'll try to fix that. So I think that's on Scott's side. So we're going to mute Scott when we speak and unmute him when it is. So,
perfect.
So hopefully, it will be back and forth, but not a little back and forth. So it is what it is. All right, guys. Here we go.
Slight delay, but very good. We'll get into it. I mean, first of all, tell us how you go from a CFO of an amazing interactive game developer to CEO of Community Musician, and how you made that transition and the inspiration for a community musician.
Sure. Well, thanks again for having me. I started my career as a musician, and I'm still a musician. So this is my most recent record, Lost Cavaliers of Mercy. In 2005, I rescued Community Musician, which was founded in 1999, from bankruptcy because, being musicians, they didn't realize that you had to collect sales tax. And the state of California basically was going to turn them upside down for all the uncollected sales tax from 1999 to 2005. And I made a settlement with them and took it over to try and rescue it for the 150,000 members that were part of Community Musician. We were doing CD replication at that time. And over the years, we've struggled to try and find how can we help musicians so that musicians can actually have something to sell at their shows that's music, that's something that people can actually listen to. And what we came up with recently is the collectible music card, which is this right here. This is a package of them. So carrying 100 albums around to your shows is a lot more difficult than just carrying a set of essentially gift cards. And I got this idea from doing a gift card for Gearbox, which was the Fortnite gift card. Gearbox had the idea to do a cross-platform gift card, but they didn't know how to execute it. I was at Bank of America for 10 years, where I was the CFO of the commercial banking division and the CFO of the International Trade Bank. And the CFO at a bank is a systems guy. Everybody else is doing credit, and the CFO is kind of the garbage man. So I put in an upgrade to B of A's global banking system. I could do the back end very easily. In 3 months, we were able to light that up and make it a $200 million business. And that gave me the idea of, well, why don't we use this as the same vehicle to distribute music? But then I ran into the problem of my 20-year-old son, my youngest, who's at UCSD. He doesn't want to do what Apple does, which is they give you a gift card and inside there's a code, and he's supposed to, you ever going to try and get a 20-year-old to put a code in like that? They'd rather, there's a billion things they'd rather do before they do that. And so we stumbled onto the idea after several different tries of using the same chip that's in your credit card, put it inside the card that's inside the gift card. So this same, thing that everybody sees here on a credit card, that's inside our collectible music card. And what it means is you can pick up your phone, tap it on tap the card on the phone, and the music is automatically triggered to play. And that's something you can get a 20-year-old to do. And also it's something that you can get your, in my case, 86-year-old mother to do. So that sort of passed the smell test of what people would be willing to do, and gives musicians something that they can sell at their shows. That's music, that's their music. And the thing that we're trying to do is make sure that the musician is getting somewhere around 70% of the gross, which is very different than the Spotify model of getting nothing, essentially. I'm an artist who's on Spotify. I made for Spotify last year, according to the records that I can find, about $10,000, which is not a lot, but it's something. And I got $250 back from Spotify last year for my music. And I have about, 60 songs in release. So that gives you kind of an idea of what the dynamic is. We wouldn't have people take their music off Spotify because who cares? Nobody's getting any money off of it anyway. Nobody's listening to it. But at their shows, they can sell somebody this card. They can tap it on their phone and immediately listen to that artist's music. Now, we have a library app. We have a community musician app that's a companion to this. And if you install that app, the music will be added to your private library in the app, and you don't have to carry the card around. We also plan to have that card work with wireless devices like speakers. It's very easy to install the NFC reader into a speaker. So we have a prototype for that we've built. And when we start distributing this in record stores, we'll partner with speaker companies to promote the card that way. And we think that innovation, which is one of 4 innovations that we have, is going to be very helpful to musicians and very successful for investors. The biggest goal that we've had over the last couple of years is how to get this card popularized and distributed without breaking the bank. So there are 5,000 new apps introduced every single day. Nobody wants another app. Definitely my 20-year-old does not want another app. Very app resistant. So how to do it, how to make that happen. And the thing that we again kind of happened upon is we started looking at music rehearsal space. And when we analyzed the financials of music rehearsal space, it profiles almost exactly like public storage. People I've talked to about music rehearsal space, they didn't even believe it existed. That's how sort of remote it is. But it does exist. And in every metropolitan region in the US, yeah? Did you have a question?
Yeah.
In every metropolitan region in the US, there's music rehearsal space, and it makes a good solid investment. So to distribute the technology, what we came upon is, hey, if we buy up these music rehearsal spaces and roll them up, that will give us effectively a zero cost way to capture the customer base. I'm an old CFO. I hate spending money on sales and marketing, and especially for pushing apps. That is just money right down the drain. But if we capture those music rehearsal businesses and then essentially make the users there adopt our app in order to pay us, much like WeWork. If you go to a WeWork, you can't do any business with them except through the WeWork app. That's it. You don't have any choice. That's the vehicle to penetrate the 98% of musicians like myself who are not a huge commercial success. I don't know if you're aware that I'm not a huge commercial success musician, but that group, we can sell them these cards. We'll sell them to them for, say, $3 a piece. They can sell them to their fans for $20 a piece, for $10 a piece, whatever they want to sell them for. And they can make money at it. We can make money at it. People can hear the music. It solves a real problem for musicians that's been a problem for a long time, since the decline of CDs as a medium.
I have a question. So if I'm a musician or a comedian, because you and I spoke about this yesterday, about if you're a comedian, you can use this card as well, right? You could be a stand-up and use it. So how much does it cost me to record, if you will, on your card for, if I want to, whether I buy, I know the cost to buy 100 is, $300, but how much does it cost me to record that on the card?
So, the way that it's managed is the only thing that's in the card is a code, just like in your credit card. So we have an app to encode the card, and that's not for the general public. That's how the music gets on the card, but we store it on our server. So you'd have to have it pre-recorded, give it to us. We'll put it on our server. Then when people go to the internet and tap on their phone, it'll pop right up.
So the only cost is the card then?
The only cost to the musician or the comedian, hopefully not the same person, is the card.
All right, very cool. Okay, John, go ahead.
No, what I was going to ask was, the musicians don't make a lot of money.
No, they don't make any money.
Yeah. Okay. So they make very little money. Okay. Pocket money, coffee money.
Yes.
So, okay. So this will be incremental, but it won't. If you want to go to a show, your show, at some venue, is that going to make the difference? Will they be able to? Because we're changing the medium, right? Instead of buying it from some other place, and they collect a small amount of the total revenue. In this case,
Mhm.
all right, are you going to sell it for $20 a song? No, I don't think you're going to sell that many. You have to. It'll be like
Well,
$5.
this is an album. This is 12 songs.
Oh, it is 12 songs. Okay, I thought it was just one song.
No, but I do have a single copy version of the same thing. And yeah, you're right. It's a problem. And when you're doing it as a single, you probably have to sell it for $5 or $3 or something. Most people who are buying stuff at a show, they don't look at the T-shirt for $45 and go, "Wow, that was a great value." Right?
Yeah.
They're doing it to support the band,
Right.
and those are the people that you're trying to get to. It's just profoundly ironic that musicians can't sell music at their own music show, right? The only thing they can sell is a T-shirt or some other easy merch, coffee cup. That is something that we want to change at a show. That is where the artist is able to make a personal connection with the fan, and that personal connection, I believe, actually changes the way you hear the music. I think it physically changes it in your brain. I think you hear it very differently. When you go in a crowded room, there's a bunch of people talking. Isn't it amazing that you can hear the thing that the person in front of you is saying, even though there's sound all around you? That's that personal connection. It really has a physiological effect, and that's how you make fans. Is you get out there and you play live, and that's your best opportunity to sell them your music. But if they don't know your name and you've got nothing to sell and all you've got is T-shirts, you've lost them. You lost your best opportunity to make a lifetime fan of your music. So that's what we want to change.
Great. All right. So yeah, So if you're a small-time musician, right? Okay, just like in your case, where if you went to a show, how many people, is it for people that have go to a nightclub and there's maybe 150 people?
That's where most of the shows are, right? Or in nightclubs
Yeah.
and so forth. I went to a nightclub recently in Los Angeles to see a new artist. The new artist didn't say their name. I'm screaming out from the back of the club, "What's your name?" Right? And it's musicians are not salespeople, very, very good salespeople most of the time. They're struggling to be artists, right? They need tools that can help them to push their music forward, and I think that this will end up being a great tool for them if we can get it started. Right now, to get those people in those small clubs interested, we're going to do free cards for selected artists that are at the not quite made it yet level. So we're partnering with a company called Stone Roller Records. They have maybe 15 artists that have an artist that hasn't made it yet, but is an artist that's getting 25,000 plays a month on Spotify.
Yeah.
So those artists at that 25,000 level, you've never heard of them, but maybe with a little bit of a push, and they'll sign to independent record labels, they could make it or get picked up by a major. So we're going to give those people cards and say, here's a limited supply of cards. See if you can sell them to your fans. Have them professionally designed, because the look and all of that stuff, they've already got that. They've already got the music. And that is the lure or the marketing plan to those artists like me who are playing these little 100-person clubs with their friends and family. It's really those people, the friends and family guys, that are our target market. If we can address that population, this can become a very big business very quickly. One of the things that we also have in our app is patronage. So I was trained for the opera. Classical music, it's all about patronage. Everybody is making donations and supporting the classical arts. I see that I go to the symphony. I'm a season ticket holder. That's the main thing. They're constantly hitting me up for a donation. That's something that popular musicians can do also with their fan base, but right now they do it in a very haphazard way. So another innovation that's in our app is patronage for artists that are in music rehearsal spaces. Jack Conti, a fellow Stanford alum, formed a business called Patreon to support his band Pomplamoose. And that now has 200,000 creators. They've paid more than $2 billion to artists, and they had a $4 billion valuation, I believe, in their last round. If we take a similar tack with the artists in music rehearsal space, which there's very little overlap, we'd have 500,000 artists if we rolled up all the music rehearsal space in the US.
So a guy like you, the 200 type of a venue sort of artist, how much are you going to charge him to go and use the space, and would he be willing to pay that?
Very good question. So music rehearsal space, as I said, profiles like public storage. The units are about 14 by 16 feet, and they are about $500 a month on average. It varies quite a bit between metropolitan region, but they are not glorious locations. They are, just bare rooms with a bulb and power outlet. These places exist today. They're monthly lockout, and it's a group of guys who want to set up their equipment and come in and rehearse every single month. The thing that's amazing about it is kind of like a gym membership. It's not really very well used, but it has very little turnover because this is people's identity. Public storage really isn't storage. They're selling identity. You're putting your stuff in there that you can't let go, even though it's probably worthless and you don't need it, and paying a couple $100 a month to keep it there because you just can't part with your wagon wheel coffee table that you had in college that you thought was really cool.
Yeah.
So very similar psychological dynamics for music rehearsal and very similar pricing and results. So these are existing businesses. I don't have to decide whether people are going to show up or not. They have a 95% occupancy. Every one of them has a waiting list. So my plan is raise the capital to buy these businesses, force the existing occupants to use my app, to push on them patronage, to push on them the collectible music cards. And then I also have another, what I'd say is a potentially unicorn-like product, which is because I'm a banker, I have a virtual currency embedded in my app. The only way you can transact in the app is through the virtual currency. So I think that ends up building up a user base that can be a user base for future cryptocurrency that can be very powerful.
All right.
And then the last thing in my plan, which I will go to the slide for, is artist discovery. So even though there's this great, huge group of people that is never going to, I'm never going to be a superstar, believe it or not. There are, if we capture all of the market, there's one Billie Eilish in there someplace. But how to cost effectively find that person? With the card, we can get those people to self-select. Because if somebody buys 200 cards and the next week they come back and say, hey, I'm out of cards, I need another card. We know that they're onto something. We don't have to put our finger on the scale. We don't have to listen to the music. We don't have to have golden ears. This is a much, much more efficient model for artist discovery. And that's the thing that we think is really, a tremendous opportunity. So the collectible music cards, patronage, the virtual currency, and artist discovery. That is the thing that we're trying to do to help musicians and to target, this market.
Where do you feel like where do you see the greatest traction out of those 4 areas in 2024? How's the year going for each of these areas?
Well, very good question. The key is really to being able to buy the music rehearsal space. So we have music rehearsal spaces come in a variety of sizes. We have a small one that we're trying to raise money for now, trying to raise $2 million to purchase what would end up being almost 200 bands in a particular location, 87 rooms. Bands double and triple up in these music rehearsal spaces. So when you get one music rehearsal space, you're getting more than one band, more than one artist. If we can do that, then it can go very, very quickly. If we can't do that, then I'm very reticent to spend money on promotion. I like a lot better the idea of capturing the existing business at 3 to 5 times EBITDA, which is more or less the standard that I've historically bought businesses for, and then being able to enhance that existing business with these other revenue streams. And again, because we're capturing the customer and forcing them to change their behavior, it's a lot easier than trying to convince somebody, oh, here, try this. Even with the artists that I talked about at Stone Roller Records, if I didn't have the record company owner mandating to the artist, we're going to do this, we're giving you sell these cards for shows, it'd be very difficult to persuade somebody to do it. Everybody only wants to do the thing that's already working, that they know. Whether you're an investor or an artist or a consumer, you only want the thing that's already known. Nobody wants to go ahead and do it. So solving that problem, I think, through the acquisition of music rehearsal space is the only, really revolutionary idea I've heard. I've never heard of anybody, trying to effectively shortcut the sales and marketing aspect of this.
Right.
And I think that's the best idea I've ever had. I've burned, in the jobs where I'm the CFO, I've burned so much money on marketing dollars that I think, went nowhere, were mismanaged. It's a constant source of ire for me, that being able to get around that, boy, I love that. So if I can raise the money to do it, that's what I'm looking for. And that's turned out to be a lot trickier than I thought, because VCs, they're just interested in the card. They don't want the music rehearsal space. They're like, we don't like existing businesses. We don't care that it's going to work better and save money. We don't like that. And then, private equity is like, we don't want technology. We just want the cash flow. Just give us the cash flow. Getting people out of their rut in the investment world is tricky, but I think it's doable. I'm still looking for my first prince, but I'm very convinced that I don't have any holes in this plan. I've been, I'm an old guy. I've been doing this a long time, and I've been working on this plan a long time. I presented Community Musician maybe 10 years ago and got my ass handed to me by people at a venture conference, maybe four or five times. So it's really, I'm in their debt for teaching me all the problems that I had with my plan to come up with this one. This one, I haven't gotten my key investor yet, but nobody's been able to punch a hole in it. The only thing that I found irksome in terms of a hole is complaints by larger investors that the entirety of the music rehearsal space business was too small a market.
Too small, okay. Yeah.
It's 150 million annual recurring revenue. So I had some investors persuaded until they found that out. And then they were like, well, that's too small for us. I couldn't believe it, that's the complaint, that it's too small for you.
How many artists does that represent, that market?
500,000 artists.
500,000 artists. So
yeah, I can capture 500,000 artists. And, if 1% of them are Billie Eilish's, you can do the math on that. And that's a pretty amazing runaway hit. You know,
And at least
again,
500 viewers, they're all going to buy 100 cards.
financing that,
Do you lose the 2% if they go and sign with a label?
If they go and sign with a label, it's fantastic because first of all, they'll be back. And the label cannot match the deal that I can give an artist because they have to pay for all the overhead, all of the stuff that they do that's entrenched. They can't escape their cost structure. The best part about this business is it's built on the idea that everything we do is profitable, no debt, and positive cash flow. And that is so we can sign an artist to a deal that nobody else can touch. And the best part is I was a public company CFO for 5 years. I am dying to have Community Musician be a public company, but sorry, investors, not for the liquidity event. Liquidity event's fine, but I think you'll want to hold on to your stock because if we're able to sign a major artist at some point with a card, we can release that information in our Ks and Qs. And even though we're a little company, that is going to create havoc in the existing music structure because every agent in Hollywood can take that 10Q to their record company and say, you got to match the economics of this deal. Can you imagine that?
So do you think would they copy your, is it patented what you have?
Yes, we filed our provisional patent in 2022. We got our full utility patent filed in 23, and it's not my first trip to the patent roadshow. So I'm very confident in our process there and in our quality of our patents. We haven't been granted the patent yet, but we've passed through all of the phases of review up until getting the patent granted. So I think it's very unlikely we will have difficulty prevailing in the patent area based on my previous experience of getting successful patents for companies.
Now, Nick, you're a marketing guy. What do you think of all? How do you think of all this?
I think it would be remiss of me to say that, Scott, I think you had the wrong marketing team throwing that kind of money down those holes. But we often, as marketers, we often get the like, where's my money going? Why can't I see immediate ROI on the money that I'm spending? So I fully appreciate your pain as a CFO is putting money into a what looks like a pretty box, and then you don't generally see the ROI on that. But that's not our discussion today. So maybe we can come back for a separate discussion. But I'm liking the GTM or the go-to-market strategy. I think is just from an outsider, I think is quite a nice one. I obviously from an operation, I look at both operations. So having founded businesses as well as on the marketing side, I look at both sides, and I can see that the pain that you have, as much as what the slow market eking into the market is a good one, which obviously be a great bootstrap strategy. Going to market with actually capturing that market with it obviously requires a bit of funding. But it sounds like you're doing pretty well there already, having had a few people bite, even though there are some challenges in changing mindsets. I'm fascinated to understand a little bit more about the security around it. So again, you wanted marketing, Steve. I'm jumped straight into market. I'm jumped straight into operations, and I'm already in a situation where we are being in South Africa. So Scott, we come from South Africa. Mm-hmm. We have a little bit of a crime challenge here. And so one of the things immediately I look at with that kind of technology is how do you prevent? I'm guessing the fact that each of those cards has an activation code, or you scan it and you got to activate it for them, because otherwise you literally steal the whole batch and you've got access to all those songs.
So one of the interesting things is yes, the security part of it. You can tap this card on any phone and it will play directly on the phone. But if you want to add it to the library, the code is paired with only one user in our library, And if somebody spoofs it, it doesn't really matter. First of all, great if they spoof it, and now this music is playing on more phones. That's the idea. We want that. They can go ahead and do that all they want. People don't really want to carry a card around. If they really like the song, they want it on their phone. So I'm counting on the convenience as the security. Now, it's the same thing. People could record music from their phone now to get a free MP3, but for $1, are you really going to go to all that trouble? It's just not worth it. It's the convenience factor that really provides the security. Another interesting sort of unanticipated consequence is for the developing world, this gift card by Apple is fine because it's a piece of paper and it's just got a code on it. So the cost is not an issue. A piece of plastic like this is way too expensive for the developing world. So even if you have a big hit or whatever, it's just not very appealing. There's too much inventory risk compared to this method. So we think that it won't be a security issue for a long, long time. It'd have to get really popular before globally that's going to be a security risk.
I'm kind of seeing the fact that the cards, especially when you start getting an artist who's a lot more well known, those cards then become, and I mean, Steve and I have gone back to, a couple of us have gone back to a previous project where, looking into NFTs, effectively you've got a card which now becomes part of you were talking about the wagon wheel in your storage unit. You've now got a card which now has a lot more emotive value, and I think from a marketing perspective, that really drives date stamping them. Obviously, having the artist branding on there is just no question, but really date stamping them with the album is really fantastic. And I think speaking to that collective unconscious, which you talk of when we talk in marketing, Jung's collective unconscious. You're talking to that, and you're talking to the emotional side of that. You're talking physical, so now I can physically hold something. You were talking about the fact that people want to go to concerts. That physical aspect, I think from a marketing perspective, you've really nailed, because it's a physical item. Those who aren't particularly emotively driven, they throw it in the trash. And those who are, will then obviously save it, put it in a safe place. So I think from a marketing perspective, all those kind of things are really, really tick the box. I like your capturing a market with the recording areas. So I think from that perspective, it is good. And yeah, I think my personal opinion is once you've captured 2 or 3 of those spaces, the automatic sort of explosion from there is going to be phenomenal. And I think the only other thing is to from a marketing perspective is maybe you pick 1 or 2 influencers. Preferably musicians, those who are sort of on social media and quite vocal on social media. Pick 1 or 2 of them to upplay the product and to use it, and you A for away. And I think it'll sort of catch like wildfire.
Appreciate that commentary very much. Just 2 points. I'll introduce the second one first. So for those influencers, they're not free or cheap. My hope is that the artist who is not made it yet, who's unknown, they have a lot of interaction with those influencers. I'd rather let them pay the influencers for promoting their music through my card. So that's how I hope to get to those people, and also get to major artists, is through that tier of people who have, they haven't quite made it yet. They're at that tipping point. I think if I support those people, there's not very many of them. So it doesn't take a lot of money for me to work that tier, and then their dollars that they're spending, I can kind of draft behind. I think that'll end up being effective for me. Second thing is, I want a lifetime customer. So I'm also going after the little kid market. This is a collectible music card for a 3-year-old.
For us, it's perfect. For this group, good.
Emotional.
So right now, if you want to have your kid play music, you've got to give them your phone or a phone, and God knows what they could do with it. Sell your whole portfolio, start your car, anything. We'd like to give little kids a little speaker that has the reader in it and some cards, and they can tap on the little speaker and play their little kid songs. This is a largely ignored market, and I think a potentially powerful one. My now 20-year-old, when he was 7, liked to play with Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and little kid behavior is really interesting with cards. They don't really care who owns it, so that when he and his friends would get together with their Yu-Gi-Oh cards, they'd give everybody their cards so they could trade with them, right? A very sort of democratic system of play. I want to get into that group because that 3 and 5-year-old will very soon be a 13-year-old. And if they grew up with these cards, I think they'll be very receptive to them. Get them early. That's my thing. The other aspect of it, I don't worry about from the security standpoint, the cards being duplicated and stuff, but I do worry about the existing powers being unhappy that they're getting cut out of this market. So I could see them making trouble for me, but I don't see them wanting to challenge the parents of little kids with a bunch of these cards. If you can give a stack of these cards to your 3 and 5-year-old and have them quiet for 5 or 10 minutes, that is, I think, a powerful incentive to not screw with my technology on the Apple platform or the Google platform, because then they're going to get millions of parents, wanting to kill them, and that's my hope for another side consequence of going after that little kid market is protection. I'm looking for those 3 and 5-year-olds to protect me from the large powers that be.
That's who protects John, by the way, 3 and 5-year-olds. So he totally understands that. So Sony and Warner Brothers, if you're listening, and Universal, you should just invest, because ultimately community musicians just going to come take you over, steal your artist, and you're going to be screwed. And it's as it should be. And if you're a music artist or a comic or anybody that wants to put your talent out there, this is a cheaper way to do it than to go have either CDs or records pressed. So, because when we were speaking, you were telling me it's like real money to have 1,000 records pressed compared to $300, if you will, to have it all done with you guys.
Now, so one of the things I learned with Gearbox is how to get millions of cards distributed globally. So the Gearbox Fortnite card is in every store everywhere, in every country. I didn't really understand how that worked when I started, but I understand it very well now. Also, from a cost standpoint, if you make that type of commitment, you're driving your costs down to around 50 or 60 cents a card. So you can really, if you're Taylor Swift, you can do very well in Target and Walmart, which today has a vinyl record section, believe it or not, with Taylor's new release that's coming out, I think today. You'll see it in those stores. The margins on the card, a lot better for community musician, better for Taylor, better for Target. So you can do very well with, better for consumers too, do very well. And I know how to get those into those stores because of my experience with making that happen for Gearbox. So I think that that's really, should be very exciting. I'm not in a hurry to get to Taylor. So if you're listening, Taylor, it's okay. I'm not trying to beat down your door now. But after we get a significant number of those 98% that are not going to make it out there and working, I'm betting that someone will say, hey, why aren't we using this card? Right? And I have the answer to that question.
So Beyonce,
I can put in every store in the world on the card, people that don't sell music. But everybody sells gift cards everywhere. I can open up a whole new market for you.
There you go. Very cool.
I think just Taylor would probably actually love it, because Taylor's history with
she's having an issue.
I was going to say she was. I think she'd love to get on board actually. What I was quite interested, Scott, was that the cards with the kids is fascinating, largely because protection of the children's minds, with the fact that you come with trust, because you're literally bringing one product. I mean, YouTube at the moment is an absolute nightmare when it comes to what the kids can and can't see, even if it's protected under, and YouTube they're just not strong enough to protect from really weird stuff that people sow into kids stuff these days. So I think from a protection point of view, I love the strategy, and I think from a parental point of view, the parents are just going to fall over themselves, because you literally have zero risk. Here's a card, here's a speaker, play it, and there's zero risk. They know the fact that the quality that's going into their child. And I think from that perspective, it's absolutely brilliant.
So I would like to ask you a question, which is, because this is an issue that I think about. I hate community musician, the name. However, when you're talking about marketing to little kids, it's a great name. When you're talking about winning the trust of musicians, it's a great name. When you're talking to investors, they're like, sounds like crap to me. What are your feelings about the brand? I don't know if you can see the logo here in back of me, but that is not the first logo we had, but it's the one that seems to have done very well. Was not my pick. I'm not a marketing guy, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think from I need to just look a little bit more at the colors, because I focused more on the content when we were going through, so I apologize on that. But I think particularly, and Stephen and John have kind of been through this with the first round of one of our previous projects, is that you've just got to target it according to your investors. So if you need to change the name, you can always change because it's really just to try and get the guys on board. We've also, from a branding perspective, what we've done with previous clients is we've had an overarching brand, and then we've had subdivisions or products. You can always have the product underneath it. And what you then do is you pitch the product totally separate from the brand, but it becomes part of that thing. So imagine CFO language, imagine a holding company with then sort of, companies underneath it, owned by it. You can then present that brand, potentially co-branding. So you could have, your current logo with a slight change to it or something like that, particularly with the little ones. I don't think the little ones would kind of connect with that thing. You could possibly change it slightly. But that's how we've got around the branding perspective. And when pitching to investors, you could just use one of the particular sort of products, if you want to call it that, and depending on who your investor is. So that's how we've got around it from a marketing perspective. And that way you can connect the emotional connection, because you've seen it already, like just as a natural course. If the investor doesn't connect emotionally, you've lost them. So yeah, happy to take that offline and have a couple of chats that'd be useful.
Sure.
Cool.
Nick, you're going to do that pro bono, right?
Of course, yes. No, man. This is exciting. Yeah, I mean, come on, guys. We were super in the last project. We were really keen to do something in a similar vein. So this is exciting to see the rubber hitting the road.
Guest privilege. Guest privilege.
Guest privilege. There you go. So for anybody that's interested in community musician, you can go, I guess, what's your website, Scott?
We send potential investors to investors.communitymusician.com.
Okay.
There's a video there. There's the full presentation. There's buttons for everything you could possibly want to know, the patent, everything.
Gotcha. And for you people that are on the podcast that's too difficult for, or the YouTube channel that you just can't, get up on a Saturday morning and figure that part out, reach to us here on the show, and we will put you in touch with Scott. if you want to have a dialogue with Scott about either purchasing the cards for your band, or you're a
Or your
Sony,
comedian.
or you're a comedian, or a Sony, you can purchase it for all your acts and make more money and screw them out of more money. I'm just trying to help you out, Sony, because you need to make more money. I'm just saying. Or if you understand what public storage is and you're interested in the roll-up strategy of community musician, where they're rolling up all the rehearsal studios, you can invest in that as well. So there you go. So it's a multi-layer investment. Scott's looking for $2 million. And we say this on every show that anybody asks for money. You need to check with your lawyers, your accountants, your wife, your girlfriend, your mistress, your sugar baby, and anybody else that has access to your credit card. And apparently, during this conversation, you're a 3 to 5 year old. Before you make any investments, make sure you're a qualified investor. Yada yada yada. All the other stuff. But if you're interested in it, take a look at it, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I think it's a very cool. I like the technology side of it. I actually like the roll-up side of it because you're basically cash flow positive day one. And there's not a lot of businesses you can say, hey, I'm cash flow positive day one. And in this business, you are. And I think when we spoke, 50 or 80 million dollars, if I'm not mistaken, rolls up every rehearsal studio. I'm not sure if it was in the world or North America.
That's for the U.S. is the 50 to 80 million dollar.
There you go. So
depending
50
on
million. There
Yeah.
you go. So a $50 million investment, you literally become a McDonald's of the United States. So for you guys that don't know what to do with your Bitcoin money, because you became trillionaires the last couple of weeks, you get $50 million is nothing. Throw it over here, and there you go. And then that's
diversify.
There you go.
Right. So, there you go.
Scott, thank you so much. This was very fascinating. So I think it's great. I hope people reach out, and we will put you in touch with Nick. If you guys want to have a dialogue after the show, and everybody, if you need, like I said, to get a hold of Scott, and you can't figure out how to get to investors.communitymusician.com, reach to us here on the show, and we will we will put you in touch with Scott so you guys can talk and go from there. Anybody else have anything else before we kick off Scott and go to Lost and Found?
It's a big plan. Wishing you a lot of luck, Scott. Looks great.
Indeed.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much for having me. Great questions. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. Scott, do you have anything else before we go?
No, thank you very much. Have a great weekend, guys.
All right, guys. Thanks so much, Scott. Cheers.
Okay.
All right. Cheers.
All right, that was cool. I like that.
Excellent.
Yeah, so that was an informative. I think he's going to revolutionize or pivot, because that's the new term that the kids use.
Yeah.
He's going to pivot the music industry, and I think it just needs to get out there. And I actually met Scott at a family office conference, and I liked it. And I was like, we need to get you on. So I was very excited that he came on to talk about it, because I think there's something here, whether you like the public storage aspect of it, if you will, roll-ups, or if you like the tech side of it. I personally like both sides. I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit there that by mistake, this becomes like $1 billion company over time.
Yeah, and you, Steve, you just need one artist to make it, and suddenly you've literally all the pain and suffering has been paid for overnight. Yeah.
And the other nice thing about it is, if you think about it, those cards, even if you don't have an artist that makes it, and you have 100,000 artists, just say on an annual basis, they all average out 1,000 cards, and that's all profit, right? The card cost him probably virtually nothing. He's charging $3. So there's just cash flow there as well. And if you do, to your point, have an artist that's like a Taylor Swift or a Beyonce or somebody, or Gangnam Style, that makes it, all of a sudden, you're going to sell 50 million cards. So that one year, your cash flow is huge, and they can just go acquire more. I know, like I said, it's 50 to 80 million to acquire all the rehearsal studios in the US. I know they've got a few deals inked outside the United States as well. So I think that if an investor comes in, I think they'd be pleasantly surprised. And the nice thing with Scott, he was a CFO of a real company, Gearbox, and a CFO of a little bank no one's ever heard of, B of A. So he probably has a clue when he talks 2+2. So I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world. But like we said, if it's something you're interested in, please check with your advisors or legal people or whoever you need to, sugar baby, mistress, wife, whatever. But if you need to get in touch with them, let us know if you can't figure out how to get to their website, and we will help you get in touch.
Okay.
So
if he sells, if 100,000 of those artists order 1,000 cards, they could probably make 250 million pure profit.
Just in, right, that's what I'm saying. So as this,
I don't know why the VCs are such anal assholes. Just
because they're assholes, John. That's it. In fact, there was an article this week about Andreessen Horowitz A26 or A27 or whatever the hell their fund is called. People want out, and they had to go out and raise another 3 or 4 billion. And BlackRock yesterday had an article in the FT that said people think it's easy for all the VCs and hedge funds to give them their money back, and they can't because they're illiquid now. So they have to raise money, and people are like, "Yeah, no, we don't really trust you anymore." So there's a big issue what's going on now globally with VCs and whatnot, because people's faith in them have kind of just been like, nah, we're good. We can do the same shit you're doing. Why am I paying you, an 80-20 type deal when we can just go out there and find companies? So a lot of it, I think the VCs now, they're so pompous and they have their heads up their asses. And I think that has a lot to do with it. Even SoftBank, when SoftBank was flying high with WeWork and all that crap, like they wouldn't talk to anybody. When WeWork went south, SoftBank was calling everybody, trying to talk to everybody because they're like, please talk to people. Like, no, so I think they forget it's great when you're up here, but when you fall down, like a lot of them are starting to do, it's great that you made all these billions and trillions, but there's a point where it stops, right? You have to actually think and you have to look, and they don't. It's all like, oh, we know this guy. So a lot of it's coming back. It's retribution. So to Scott's point, the PE firms, the VC firms, they all have their head up their asses because they're like, oh no, it's just not good enough for us. Yeah, right? Getting $200 million a year in free cash flow is not good enough for you. Are you a fucking moron? So that's the problem. And the other problem is that you have to send your, as you guys all know, right? You have to send your deck to some guy who barely reads it, or it goes now through AI. And if you don't have the keywords in it, it doesn't look at it. And you guys know this, I like the old school. I like to read everything that comes in and make my own decision. And the problem is whether you get 5 decks a day or 5,000 a day, if you don't have somebody that can at least read it and go, I see it, you're screwed. And that's what's happening now. They all think they're gods, and they're not. And they're all starting to find out that the public in general, even sovereign wealth funds, are just had it. They're all doing it on their own. So they got to change their thought process, I think, in my opinion. But what do I know?
I think just to sort of bring it back to marketing on my side is that, the emotional connection with the cards is phenomenal. And I think adding to that is if Scott, then I know printing costs are going to go up and production, economy of scales go out the window. But basically, if you could literally print a different card or slightly different card, whether it be a slight graphic image or you just literally just number them 1 to 100 and you send them out, suddenly you can then create, that desire to, hey, I've got one of the first 100 that were printed. I got one of the first 1,000, whatever it might be. So suddenly you bring it back to ownership, and you bring it back to, I've got something which is a one-off of.
A limited series.
Limited edition, exactly.
I like it.
And I think,
that's
all of that, I think it almost seems counterintuitive to go physical, where it's like, well, yeah, you've got a physical product and now I'm going to buy it. And it's kind of like, well, we're all digital now. But it is. The amount of noise that's out there in the digital space is just so much that having a personal connection, having that, hey, I've been there, and that emotional connection that Scott spoke about is brilliant. And I mean, we're seeing that now, post-pandemic, we're kind of coming into a situation where people are wanting to engage again. Like exhibitions have just skyrocketed, face-to-face meetings have skyrocketed, and that face-to-face marketing has suddenly sort of really got a
press the flesh, baby. Press the flesh. That's what they all want to do. So,
exactly.
All right, boys and girls.
Humans. Anyway,
some of us are. You know what I'm saying? Let's put it this way: 3 out of the 4 are. Well, Okay, so listen, we should do Lost and Found. You guys ready?
That's right.
John, you got to search the internet really quick. Find your Lost and Found.
Welcome to this week's Lost and Found, uncovering dollar winners and losers, where we discuss dollars lost and dollars gained by various companies and projects.
And we are here, kids.
Right.
Okay. Let's just do it this way. John, we'll let you go first. Nick will go second. Then we'll do Michael, and then I'll just go.
You've got an array. You've got an
I
array
have,
of stories.
I have a feeling that some of my array you guys may cover. So I don't want to take anything from anybody.
Well,
And
let's
since
see.
David's not here to show us a video of a cow saving the moon, I figure it's the easiest way to go. So, Mr. Philippot, tell us, what is your lost and
So,
found?
Swiss watches are,
Yes.
having a real tough time. And in the month of March, their overall global sales were down 16%, which is compared to last year, which is about 2.2 billion. And in Hong Kong and China, their sales have dropped 42%.
Wow.
So
The economy.
yeah, so the Swiss watch market is kind of hurting. So they're the $1 billion loss there for them.
Yeah, that's a loss.
Yeah, that's a big loss.
You know what's really, if I
What
may,
are they
what's
buying
really funny?
instead of Swiss watches?
No, here's what happened. And Nick brought it up earlier. When we had the pandemic, people were bored because they sat home and they couldn't do anything, and they would buy Swiss watches, supercars, and whatever, ridiculous shit. Now that we're almost going back, and I say almost, to a normalcy, people are like, oh, I can go out my front door. I don't need 17 watches. I don't need 43 cars. And it's going back to that, because even supercar prices are coming down. Watches I definitely know are coming down. And I know that people are selling off cars. Someone sent me something yesterday on a car and I go, would you buy this? And I'm like, I don't need any more cars. And if it's a car that I know what they paid for, and they're literally selling it for a few million under because they just want to get rid of it because they realize that they don't need this car. So during the pandemic, things skyrocketed. And it's just sort of that cyclical cycle, right? It was sort of that crazy thing. If there's another pandemic in a week, I think we would go back to it. But I think people with money now are realizing we don't need all that. We just need to be a normal person. I think. I don't know. What do I know?
Yeah,
I think Steve,
I
point
don't know.
that is also
really well last quarter because of the wealthy.
Yeah,
Nick, I'm sorry.
I think you also weren't able to get hold of any of the products, which then made it a lot more.
Right,
Yeah, you
yes.
could kind of charge more because it's more difficult to get it, to manufacture, etc., etc. So I think that also pushed the sky. Yeah, supply and demand, eh?
That's true.
That's right.
That Thomas Paine guy. What a pain in the ass. So, all right, Mr. Nick, what do you got for us?
So we just before the show, we were talking a little bit about our gerbils running around here with the power challenges that we're having in South Africa, and what the potential. You always follow the money, and then you understand why things happen. So I've actually got two. They're kind of connected. The first one is the fact that I'll go with the negative one first. The first one is that we're having elections in South Africa in the next month or so. Literally, I think almost a month now, and anybody who's read anything about South Africa in the last 7 years or so would understand the fact that our previous president and his cronies took the country for a lot of money, in the billions of rands, which I know it's about $2, but still, it was a lot of money for us. But he has applied to go for presidency again. So it's yeah.
Donald Trump Jr.
Yeah, and it's got through a couple of ranks. So we're kind of watching this with interest, seeing where this is going. So certainly, if he gets anywhere close to running, it's certainly going to be a many dollars lost.
Okay.
But by the same token, and kind of also in a similar vein, interestingly, but by the same token, we actually have a lot more power now. So again, a manipulation you can see, because we struggled quite a lot with power a good few months ago. And now we've got a whole lot more power, and we haven't had load shedding for a while. So again, a governmental manipulation. And I think if the people of South Africa can actually see the fact that it's all about the money, and if you follow the money, you'll understand why we're having it. But at the same time, it's quite sad. But for us who can work with power, dollar found, definitely.
Very cool. Very cool.
Wow.
All right. Did you have another one, or is it Mikey's turn?
No, Mikey, it's all yours, man.
All right, big guy. What do you got?
All right. Well, we've got flying cars might finally be here, but they're not coming to the U.S. first. They're coming to India first.
Of course they are, because they get
Archer Aviation, a U.S. company, but they're trialing these electric air taxis, because India has such horrible congestion, they think that that's the right market to start with. And they're going to start next year, hopefully, 2025. They've got to pass through all these clearances in India, but these are electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, flying taxis, the future of urban air mobility that only costs 3 times the price of a standard premium taxi on the ground. So it's a luxury product, but it's coming. So
think of the time you save. Like in New York, just see John and I if we were in Manhattan, John, and we had to get somewhere, just think how quickly we could go.
Yeah. From a 90-minute ride in New Delhi to 7 minutes in the air.
Yeah. Then it's worth 3 times because of the money you save just getting to your meeting to do things. Then again, when you get to the meeting, they're still going to make you wait 90 minutes. So it doesn't really matter. So it's a cultural thing. Let's just be real. So here's a couple things. One was in the Financial Times this morning, yesterday, and kudos to the city of New York, the mayor of New York, and the New York City Police Department. Columbia University finally called the police on the Palestinian protests. That was at the university. And the universities now in America said, like, enough's enough. You don't know what you're talking about? Like, enough. Like, we're not doing it. So kids, I'm glad you want to protest, but until you know the history, as our parents would tell all of us, shut the fuck up, and children should be seen and not heard. I don't care you're at a prestigious university, you're still fucking morons. I just thought I'd say that. I listen.
Tell
I'm
us
not
how you
pro
feel.
anything. Yeah, I'm going to hold back my emotions. So I don't know if that's not a loss or what. I just read that and I thought that was kudos for them finally having balls. And that's the city of New York always has it. The mayor does.
Common sense, maybe.
Yeah, thank God for this Columbia president that said enough's enough. Like, we can't have this anymore. We have to go back to being education, higher learning instead of protesting.
Right. Education.
It's not Berkeley. It's not Berkeley in the 60s where naked chicks are running around. But if they were, the show's going to be done at Berkeley next week. Anyway, the next thing is in the news, Samsung has toppled Apple as the #1 phone company producer in the world as of this week, or last quarter, I guess. So kudos to Samsung. I love those little Koreans. They're only about 4 inches tall. I've seen all the movies. So kudos to Samsung. Their phones now beat Apple. I think Apple sales were down about 10%. So there you go.
Yeah.
They're significant. Now, Tesla is cutting 10% of its workforce, which is about 14,000 people. But Elon Musk got approval to move his company from Delaware to Texas so he can get a $56 billion pay package. So, Mr. Musk, kudos to you for firing 14,000 people and still getting $56 billion. You, my friend, can go play my favorite game. And then last but not least, kudos to Seth MacFarlane. For you people that don't know who Seth MacFarlane is,
Family Guy.
Thank you very much. And kudos to Family Guy for 25-year anniversary.
Wow.
So, 25 years to the Family Guy.
That's impressive.
Yep. And they're still going strong. And I know the Simpsons have been on like 40 years, but
the commentary on Family Guy is pretty spot on.
Yes, and they were talking about, I watched an interview and they were doing shorts before the TikTok and shorts were possible to do. And now they were saying how Family Guy just falls right into TikTok and YouTube because of the shorts, the way they do their bits. So kudos to Seth, kudos to the whole cast. 25 years, and I watch that show. I laugh my ass off constantly. It is just hysterical. So none of them will ever come on this show probably, but kudos to them.
Well, they're cartoon characters, Steven. So
no, the real people that do the voices. Seriously, it's like I'm talking to John. So John, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still with you.
Check the hearing aid. Okay, so next week, Michael Collins will be our
That's
guest.
Right. Be prepared.
Always love when Michael's on. Yeah, John will be here for that one because John likes Michael. He likes him. I don't know if Nick will make it because he may be past his dead time. We know David won't make it because it is definitely past David's bedtime at the home. Yes. So in a fortnight, Mr. David will be back with us. And I don't think we have a guest in a fortnight, but next week will be Michael Collins. Thank you once again to Scott Arey from Community Musician. If you like what Scott had to say and you can't remember anything that we told you or looked at the slide that we put on the screen, feel free to reach out to us here at the show, and we will get you in touch with Scott if there's any information that you want. And other than that, boys and girls, we're good. Don't forget to subscribe and like. We're here every Saturday morning, wherever you get your podcasts, or here on YouTube. I don't know. What else? Is that it? Or we're done?
Good to see you, gentlemen. Long show.
All right. Yeah.
A good show.
Good
Guys,
show.
enjoy.
Good.
Everybody have a good rest of your weekend. Cheers.
Cheers.